All right, in this video, I want to talk to you about how to correct some of your errors. So obviously, if you find an error and you can see it right away, then you would want to make that correction. You know, if I click some of these cells that have errors in them, there's nothing really obvious here that I'm noticing in these. So it's a little bit more difficult. But so I want to show you a couple of ways that we can go through errors in our workbook. So the first one I'm going to do is show you how to trace an error. So I'm going to just select cell F9 here as one of the examples. And then I'm going to go up to my formulas tab up top, and I'm going to go over to the error checking down arrow here. And then I'm going to click trace error. And you see all these little arrows start to pop up. So what you see here, red definitely indicates that there's some sort of error that we're following there. So I can see that this cell is affected by this cell, for instance, and then this cell is affected from a different worksheet. So what I can do is I can take this and follow this to my other worksheet, and you can do that just by clicking on this arrow. And then it tells me, you know, where it's going, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I clicked on that tracer arrow, that's what it's called. And I'm going to go to the box and go ahead and click this. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now it brings me to that worksheet, and you can see it brings me to the next cell where there is an error. So again, I don't see anything super obvious just yet. I can see my function up top, so I can do it again. I'm going to go up to error checking, go down to trace error, and I can see it starting again. So this is all red, meaning that there's an error in here somewhere, and then I see blue. So when you go from blue to red, typically that's where your error is going to be. So somewhere in here is causing the issue. So if I click cell B20, I see a pretty obvious error now. I looked and I spelled that word sum incorrectly. So that's really a silly error. I can delete and correct that spelling. And then once I do, this end up fixing most of my errors here. I may not get all of them, but anything that uses cell B20 is now going to get corrected along the way as well. And then once I'm done with those arrows, I can see they're all blue. So I can hit remove arrows up top, and it will go ahead and remove that. And I can go back to my other sheets. Let's see, where was I before on the balance sheet? And I do see that those errors were fixed. And I can go ahead and remove those arrows. So that's one way we can help to trace an error back through our problem. Now, there's another way, and this one helps for much more difficult errors to find. So there's another thing we're going to do called evaluating a formula. And I'm going to go down to cell F34. And you may be saying, well, why are we at F34? There's no error symbol there, right? Well, not every error will have an error symbol. So the error symbol only shows if there's a problem in Excel, right? So you type something into a formula wrong, you spelled something wrong, you didn't click the right cells. It's not going to notice just a mathematical error. So we actually have one here. And this is why I kind of always encourage you guys, you know, to check your work along the way, because it's much harder to go through at the end and try to check all of your previous formulas. So try to kind of just put some checks and balances for yourself along the way, make sure the math makes sense. So if I look at this row here, this row should actually be matching this row. And you can see that the first few values, like they do match, right? 491, 491, 415, 415. And then what happens is the final value does not match. So there is an error here. But if I look at my formula, again, I'm not sure exactly where the error was because my workbooks are so interconnected. And these worksheets are so interconnected that it could be almost anywhere, which makes it a little bit difficult. So I'm going to use something called the Evaluate Formula button. So I'm up here in Formulas, and over here you see Evaluate Formula. So I'm going to click that, and it basically shows us the formula again, and then it also underlines the different parts. So the part that's underlined is what you're focusing on right now. So if I click Evaluate there, it will show me what that value was, and then it moves on to the next one. And again, I could click Evaluate here. And if I want to kind of keep going there and kind of see, okay, what were these values? The other thing that I can do is I can also step into the function a little bit deeper here. So if I click step in, it will break it down and say, hey, this comes from this sheet. So this is from the loan schedule worksheet, cell E38 here. And maybe I want to go ahead and step into this a little bit more. So I can step in again, and again, it will break this down a little bit further. And you can see my screen in the back changing as it's walking me through what cells are connected here. And if I look, I can see that this is actually where the error does occur. So what's happening here is I'm using cells D38 and E37, but I'm actually doing this incorrectly here. I should be in year 5 for my information, but I was using the wrong year data when I was trying to copy in my formulas, or maybe I just went too fast here. So we do need to make a correction. So I'm going to go ahead and step back out, and I can also go ahead and close this, and then I'm going to go back to that loan schedule sheet and try to go ahead and fix this. So, all right, let's see. We're going to go to, where am I going to go? Let's see, I'm closed that. I'm going to cell F25. Oh, I'm back on the wrong page again. Hang on. So I'm going back to that F25 cell here, now selected, and I'm going to go ahead and change this. So I used E38 here, but actually it should have been F38, because again, I was in the wrong year. So this is supposed to be information for year 5, but I given it information for year 4 in that previous piece. So then I click enter, and I can see that this now has fixed and corrected, right? This matches, sorry, right here, this matches my final value right here. So that's the evaluate formula tool, which again is helpful for more difficult errors that you have to kind of trace back through. And it just really helps to show you, okay, what cell was connected here, particularly when those worksheets are interconnected, right? Where did this information come from? Okay, it came way back on this other worksheet. Let me go check that other worksheet out now. So try to check along the way. It definitely is going to save you time in the end. And check your numbers, right? Just because you have answers does not mean they're correct. So you need to make sure that you have no errors. And again, put those checks and balances in along the way as well.